Hey guys, and welcome back to another Overwatch video. In this one, we're going to be talking about something quite interesting. How one single hero changed Overwatch for years. I mean, well, it was actually just for a year, but we'll get more into that in just a moment. Of course, if you have not caught on yet, you soon will, as it is the one and only Brigitta. Now, I talked to a lot of high-ranking players here, like mainly top 500s and grandmasters, about who they think was the most influential hero in Overwatch, and by far, no questions asked, they just all told me Brigitta. She single-handedly changed the game for over a year, and it was honestly mind-boggling. I mean, who changes? How could one... I mean, if you guys play League of Legends or hell, maybe Dota, imagine if one champion or whatever they're called in Dota was added to the game and for a year or 2 years the game was completely different, the meta was out of whack, the pro scene completely took a turn, and everything kind of crumbled. This is what Brigitta did. Now, of course, it's mainly because Brigitta brought on the GOATS meta, and people really didn't like it. I mean, as you can see in that Reddit post I just threw up, the world's best DPS player was playing Brigitta during a competitive match over and over, and this is because this is what he had to do to win. GOATS was not fun to watch, and most people did not enjoy playing it. Actually, a lot of people in the high-ranking area of Overwatch kind of refused to play GOATS and mainly had to switch to it in a desperate attempt to turn the game if they really needed to. If you want some footage about how prime and beautiful GOATS was, take a look. I'm showing it on screen. It was more of a huge mess than anything else. Very little outplay, very little thought, very little strategy, and nothing at all to do with creativity. Playing or watching GOATS was basically just using ult after ult after ult with no kills in sight. It was like watching a soccer game that ended in 0-0. It was disappointing, and maybe we would have all been okay with it if Blizzard just listened and tried a little bit harder, but the fact that it took so long really means that they made a huge mistake from the get-go. Now, Brigitta was the cornerstone of this. Brigitta was the iceberg that tipped, that created the GOATS comp. This is the truth, and everyone can see that. But Blizzard didn't really think through what they were doing when they actually added Brigitta. And this is mainly prevalent because from the point that Brigitta was added to the point that the GOATS meta ended, nothing really fixed it until Brigitta was basically reworked and a ton of buffs and nerfs were implemented, and even then it was still kind of viable, and we could really say that it didn't 100% die and basically dug itself its own grave, threw the dirt on top, put a billion rocks, and make sure we never look at it again until Role Queue was introduced. It wasn't until a major game mechanic and an entire new system was implemented for GOATS to truly die. Now, I don't want anyone to mistake me, and I definitely do not want to spread false information, because GOATS did die about 2 months before Role Queue. It wasn't exactly with Role Queue, but we can just say Role Queue cemented its death, because basically GOATS started around Season 11 and ended around Season 16. 5 seasons. And when you put it into context like that, it can honestly be mind-blowing. I mean, 5 seasons of this, of GOATS. 5 seasons of exactly what you're watching. That is a hard pill to swallow, and I'd honestly go as far as to say it's almost completely unacceptable. I mean, maybe I'm kind of over-exaggerating there, but think about it from a gamer's point of view, and from a game developer's point of view. Metas are something natural in a competitive game, right? We can all agree? Normal. Again, I'm going to use League of Legends as an example, or maybe Dota, or Overwatch as you guys play, and plenty of others. A meta is a normal term and is used consistently, and for the most part, no competitive game wants to ensure that the meta stays the same, especially if it's not a very fun or slow meta. So they update, change, add heroes, blah 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 blah, to change the meta continuously. Game developers are expected to communicate, alter, and in a timely manner change things. For Blizzard to basically ignore the problem at the start and then not fix it for a year or 5 game seasons, ranked seasons where people are playing competitively, is a little bit sad from a company's point of view. But regardless, all of the complaining in the world will not change the past. We just gotta be thankful that the GOATS meta is gone and we're on to some better metas, even if it's the dive comp or literally bunker comp. Any other comp is more enjoyable than GOATS. So let's be thankful it is gone and out of the way. So instead, we need to understand exactly how did we get to GOATS. I mean, let's be real here. How did a meta form so strong where it was labeled unkillable and wasn't even cemented to its own death until a game system was implemented? How can something like that happen? Because I actually think it's quite interesting, and I think it's more rare and a lot more special than most people think. So while GOATS has its own specific comp, I guess it kind of boiled down to the triple tank meta, right? That's basically what it boiled down to. It is a triple tank meta that completely overtook the game. So why did it become extremely effective, and why because of Brigitta? Well, I mean, it's kind of simple. It's honestly not that complicated. Supports are usually very squishy and quite easily killable. So if you wanted to attempt and run a triple tank comp with the squishy supports, any good opposing team can focus down the supports even if they have to dump all their resources on them, get the supports out of the way, and while tanks are tanks, they still won't survive long without those heals. Brigitta just kind of slipped in there, so if you chose 3 tanks and Brigitta, you essentially had 4 tanks and one of them could just heal. Brigitta was unkillable. This is a fact. I mean, literally almost unkillable. Continuous CC, very easy way to counter the dive meta on top of a shield with massive amount of health. Of course, this has changed, but I'm talking about old Brigitta, as well as consistent healing for her and her teammates around her by dealing damage. Imagine, they're telling you, throw up that 500 HP shield, get yourself in there with a CC, deal damage, assassinate them like you're a DPS, and you know what? For free, we'll just heal the team around you. This is basically what Brigitta was. And if that wasn't enough, her ult was just more tankiness, more engagement, more everything. It's countering dives, attacking bunker. It just had all the cards played out correctly. Which leads me nicely into why GOATS kind of ended 2 months before Role Q, and while Role Q wasn't exactly essential for its death, but more so completely reworking Brigitta, but to a point that it hasn't been very healthy for the game. Most people agree, and again, when I say most, and I do reference this a lot, I just talk to high-ranking players because I want to make sure I'm imposing correct information to you guys. So when I was talking to the high-ranking players, and even the lower-ranking ones, everyone agreed that Brigitta is basically useless now. They didn't just nerf her, balance her, or adjust her to kill the GOAT meta. The GOAT meta didn't really die until they killed Brigitta herself. So with her rise came the GOAT meta, and to her grave, the GOAT meta ended. Now, they might be able to safely buffer because of Role Q, but I'm sure they're scared. In the end, 2 tanks plus Brigitta still sounds pretty similar to how the GOAT meta was, and I'm sure that they're treading on thin ice with this hero. It's true, Brigitta was cool. She is cool. I think she has an amazing concept, and I even like her as a hero and because of her lore. I think it's cool. She's cool. Blizzard did great with her. But how they implemented her into the game was unhealthy to a point they didn't know what to do. Brigitta was power scaled and implemented into the game so poorly that Blizzard just sat there and like, okay, what do we do with this hero? We don't want to just remove her. So instead they just nerfed her straight into the ground. Then Role Q came as a boulder on top of it and smacked it straight in the face. It took a lot to kill GOATS meta. Until now, it's quite an impressive story. But anyhow, this does conclude the video about the story of GOATS and its rise as well as its fall. If you guys did enjoy it, then why not hit that like button, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.